Mel Gibson's film The Passion, it's actually an anti-Christian film. Mel claims he's a devout Catholic because this project was his baby, it was his pet project, so I'm assuming that he is representing his own views here. So that's what I'm basing this critical analysis of The Passion on, is that Mel is not a devout Catholic, he's actually a Gnostic. And screenshots from The Passion should prove exactly what I'm saying. Now the first thing is look at pictures of Jesus on the cross during the crucifixion scene. The important thing to note here is that his right eye is blinded, his right eye is swollen shut, and when he's nailed to the cross, his arm is broken and bent into an unnatural position. Now, what would you think would be, most people wouldn't think there's anything odd about that, but if you have a Bible handy, flip it open to Zechariah 11:17, because in Zechariah 11:17, there's a curse pronounced there, and it says, "Woe to the worthless shepherd! May his right arm be broken and withered away, and his right eye be blinded." Now, in the Gospel of John, Jesus, in John chapter 10:11, Jesus says he is the good shepherd. This verse in Zechariah is a curse on the worthless shepherd, so it's not talking about Jesus. It therefore has to be talking about Lucifer. So now look on these pictures of the supposed Jesus, so-called Jesus on the cross in the Mel Gibson film. And again, we see his right eye is blinded and his right arm is broken. So this isn't Jesus on the cross here. This is Lucifer. So this is Gnosticism, Gnostic, satanic inversion, where he's got Lucifer being crucified, but he says that it's Jesus. Now, note in this screenshot this is taken from the inside of the Church of Satan in Los Angeles. And here, the most important feature of this picture, next to the upside down cross, is note that the statue of Satan can visibly be seen to have one eye blinded, and his right eye is blinded and his right arm is withered away. So this is the exact same thing that Mel is doing in his supposed depiction of, quote, Jesus on the cross. A few minutes after this, coming up in the next sections of the film, we get a little visit from Satan, the famous scene, and there's a lot of videos about this that has Satan as a woman holding the baby, probably the Antichrist, and watching the supposed crucifixion. Mel Gibson is a Gnostic, and he may also be a Luciferian because he seems to know an awful lot about Satan. And the actress he gets to play Satan, Rosalind Celentano, she's very androgynous looking. She's very tall and thin, and he even amplified it by shaving off her eyebrows and shaving her head and using a lot of camera tricks and even running her voice through a harmonizer to make her sound like Rob Zombie, basically to make her sound like a demon. So after crucifying a one-eyed Jesus, Mel is very, very careful to get every detail correct about Satan. Mel claims that Satan appeared to him during the filming of this movie. This film didn't just cost Mel $25 million. It probably cost him his soul. Maybe he even defected to the other team to guarantee this film's success. Mel definitely had a real encounter with Satan, because in this film he gives details about Satan, eyewitness details worthy of any occult magician who had done many, many invocations. Mel Gibson, who's supposedly a devout Catholic, and Catholics are taught to be ignorant. They're told to just let the priests do their thinking for them and quietly obey what they're told. But Mel seems to know an awful lot about Satan. He knows about the Baphomet, and he knows how important androgyny is to Satan. So based off this scene, Mel Gibson is a devout Gnostic, and probably his religion would be some kind of Gnostic dualism, which is basically Luciferianism. And at least while making this film, his real best friend was probably Kenneth Anger, co-founder of the Church of Satan. Gnosticism is all about inversions. Evil is good and good is evil. Everything is reversed, and they worship a being called the Demiurge. That's actually, it's two gods. It's the god of the Bible, which is the evil god, and then there's Lucifer, the good god. So this would explain, if Gibson is indeed a Gnostic, this would explain his obsession with Lucifer and why Lucifer must be glorified and put in the place of Jesus, because this is a Gnostic inversion. So in Gnosticism, how this would be explained would be that the quote Jesus on the cross in Mel's film is the Demiurge, the false god, and the woman holding the baby, or Satan Lucifer, is the true god, according to Mel's cosmology. Now, Gnosticism is a religion basically for the elites only, which is why it's found prominently in Freemasonry and other hidden religions. Secret societies are usually filled with Gnosticism. And how Gnosticism works is that there's an outer false religion to fool the stupid uninitiated, and there's an inner secret religion that must be kept secret. And the lower level members have to be deceived, so they have to be told that the fake outer religion is the true one. So this is what we see in Catholicism is that the real core would be Luciferian Gnosticism, and it's wrapped in a cloak of fake pretended Christianity. Now, Mel himself said in an interview when this film came out, this quote that I captured out of a Walter Veith video from an interview in Christianity Today magazine. And it's Mel himself talking about the Passion and how he's surprised how it's so loved by evangelical Christians, because the film, as was his intention, glorifies Mary as deity, not Jesus. So this is because in Catholicism it's a substitution. They claim that they worship Jesus, but no Catholics are allowed to pray to him. They must pray to Mary instead. And everything must be done through Mary, and it's Mary's power, and Mary is the mediatrix, and Mary is the salvation. So again, we've got some real substitution going on here, because this is not biblical. There is no worship of Mary ever authorized in the Bible, and in Luke 1:48, Mary herself says she's a sinner. So any of this stuff that Mel Gibson is promoting about Mary is false, according if you believe the Bible, and directly contradicting 1 Timothy 2:5, which says there's one mediator between God and man, the man Christ Jesus. Now, in all ancient religions have the same structure, and there's a sun god, usually the male god, but in a couple of exceptions it's actually reversed. But they'll have a male sun god who's usually Jupiter, Saturn, Baal, Apollo, whatever, pick whatever name you like, because they're all the same. And then a moon goddess, also called the Queen of Heaven, and this is in witchcraft. You have Diana, Artemis, Isis, Cybele. Anyway, the names don't matter because they're all referring to the same beings. But this is in paganism. This is not Christianity. Nowhere in Christianity do you have this structure. And the Catholics, of course, worship Mary as the Queen of Heaven and as the mediatrix. So again, this is goddess worship. This has nothing to do with Christianity. This is pure paganism. Now, also note that in Gnosticism, the male-female distinction is considered a corruption. It's an evil, part of the evil corruption of matter, that you have two distinct sexes. And the ideal instead in Gnosticism is androgyny, the synthesis of male and female. So they're both mixed into the other. Now, one of the outworkings of this is goddess worship, because it's a substitution of female for male. All advanced occult books all agree that Venus, the Roman goddess Venus, is the female half of Lucifer. This screenshot is taken from Gail Riplinger's New Age Bible versions and compares Madame Blavatsky's Isis Unveiled and St. Ligouri's The Glories of Mary. Both Cardinal St. Ligori and Madame Blavatsky, in their writings, which both around the same time in the late 19th century, both say that the Virgin Mary that the Catholics worship is actually indeed Lucifer. So again, here's another interesting, we'll call it a coincidence, quote coincidence, in Mel's film, this beautiful but androgynous looking woman holding a baby to be the satanic Virgin Mary, also called the Black Madonna. So instead of glorifying Jesus or even Catholicism, what this film actually shows is it has two gods or two deities, which are actually Lucifer and Satan. So the left-hand path and the right-hand path. Now, thinking about the content in these scenes, probably the reason why Mel was so heavily censored by Hollywood and punished by Hollywood on the release of this film is, unlike most other Hollywood films, unlike The Matrix, where the Wachowskis went to great lengths to hide the Gnosticism promoted by that film, and instead they did their best to disguise it as a Christian film. But unlike them, Mel left everything here out in the open, and I think that's why he was heavily censored by Hollywood for making this film. But this film shows the real power of indoctrination through the media and how false advertising really works well, because this film is praised, universally praised, as such a great Christian film, and it's not a Christian film at all. It's an anti-Christian film. This is pure Gnosticism, and people think this film portrays Christianity. Usually the major studio films do their very, very best to hide their real intentions when they make these million-dollar big-budget films. Hollywood big studio films have never, ever been about entertainment. There's two purposes here: distraction, to keep us distracted, and indoctrination. The actor that portrayed the quote Jesus in this film, Jim Caviezel, was interestingly struck by lightning twice while making this film, and he almost died. So this tells us what God thinks of his blasphemous portrayal of the Gnostic Jesus in this film. This is not a Christian film by any stretch of the word. This film portrays what 2 Corinthians 11:4 says is a different gospel, another Jesus, and a different spirit.